Do this, let's jump in game and let's see what's going to happen. To the bottom right hand side, it's going to be our blue Zerg player. This is Namshar. And his opponent in the first matchup of today is the Red Terran. From OSC Elite to the top left hand corner, it is souL. It's warm. 9 Months of Darkness, says Root Guy. It is warm. Yeah, it's actually surprisingly nice this week here in the UK. We've not had any rain for a little while. We've just had like nice warm days. It's been a bit windy now and again, but it's been pretty pleasant outside, so maybe I need to start coming in and opening the window a little bit sooner so that's like at a better temperature for when we actually get started. That might be a way to approach this. Anyways, this is the Go4SC2 monthly finals. If you're just tuning in, I already explained how this event works, but I'm going to do it one more time for you all because I know some of you like to tune in just as the games get going. So, 16 players enter the single elimination bracket. The players are here because they earned Go4SC2 points throughout the Go4SC2 Cups, which are played on Thursdays and Sundays throughout the month of March. Top 2 players will take home prize money today with 150 and a €50 split for first and second place. And we're going to be casting through the round of 16, the round of 8, and then we'll be hopefully casting both semi-finals today and then the grand finals afterwards. So that's our current plan of action for today's Go4SC2 monthly finals. And it is going to be best of 3s throughout with a best of 5 grand final as well. So hopefully we get a good 3.5 4 hour stream out of this, especially if we get to cast both semi-finals. A lot of the time in these events we actually end up only casting one semi-finals, but today apparently we are getting to cast both if everything goes according to plan, which should just help to kind of stretch out the stream just that little bit. So excited to see how this goes. We see this first Overlord coming across the map. Obviously that's not too interesting. This Reaper is a little bit more intriguing because obviously now some sort of action will start to come down. No SCV scout early by souL means that he does have to kind of check around the edges with this Reaper just in case lings are coming over. And he's actually been very cautious about this with the Reaper to the point where he's even pulling it back. So without the SCV scout, he doesn't know if it's a hatchery or a pool first, and so he keeps his Reaper back home for just a little while, waiting for the lings to maybe run on in, but they aren't arriving, so now he does finally send that Reaper down to the bottom right-hand side. And look at that from souL. He isn't skipping around much at all here, just throws down the third CC right from the get-go. So just throwing the third command center up straight away as we see the Reaper at the front gets pushed away by the Queen. A few lings now starting to come out. If you could get this creep tumor, that would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? But is he really going to be able to grab that here? No, the Queen's going to protect it just a little bit too well. But good information, he sees the third hatchery coming up already, which already eliminates a couple of options. Means that, you know, a lot of gas couldn't have been continued to mine, or otherwise he would have had to skip some other bits and pieces to still afford the third hatchery. As we do just have the third CC, as we mentioned before, very quickly coming down from souL. One gas with this, so as he gets up into the starport, this is probably just going to be along the lines of like a Viking to just poke away at a few Overlords. Maybe he gets a medevac to drop some Hellions, but that's going to be it. This is not going to be enough gas for a Liberator. It's not going to be enough gas for Cloak Banshees. Not just yet, at least. And so, obviously, he doesn't need those units out, per se, because he doesn't need to do as much damage as usual, because he's got the fast third command center. As we do see, what's he going to go for? Just the Viking. Makes a lot of sense. Push this Overlord back if possible, although it seems this Overlord is scouting in early enough to come through and to see that third command center coming up. So he'll get that little bit of a heads up as to what's happening. He'll know, okay, well, you know, third CC is coming on down here, so Namshar will know about the earliness of this, and he'll know he can be a bit greedy in this game with the fact that the Terran player will just be a little bit later behind on his production, on harassment, and some other little bits and pieces. Couple of armories coming down the front gives away souL's overall game plan here quite quickly, though. He has got a second gas in the natural, which is kind of interesting because as Namshar scouts into the main, he didn't actually get to see this gas, but maybe he got to see the lack of workers putting, putting gas back into the command center. So, yeah, maybe he picked up on the fact there's a lack of gas there, and that could be intriguing. Either way, I like the idea of taking the second gas in the natural, because it is more difficult to scout, and it does maybe just confuse Namshar a little bit as to what exactly is going on. This mech play, of course, is not going to be amazingly well dealt with pure Zerglings, for example. So if Namshar was already able to identify this, then a couple of buildings, the Roach Rover would come down here, and that really would be the start of a better defense. As an armory finishing up, obviously now those Hellbats can morph on in from the Hellions. And obviously the upgrades can get started too. Double factory on the way down. Going to be jumping onto Tech Labs here shortly. Starport building the reactor for the medevacs. That 4-drop is on the way off the back of this very fast free CC. So NamSha, because souL's got such a strong economy, is going to have to make sure that the 4-drop really doesn't get much done at all. Because the more that souL gets done, the more he's going to be able to take advantage of what already is such a strong eco beginning for himself. And I'm sure definitely making a mistake or two here. For example, not transfusing this Overlord definitely is something he maybe could have done. 50 energy to keep the Overlord alive, almost always worthwhile, because there's no way the Viking continues to dive on in for further damage. And as you see those Hellions coming over this side, actually going to be able to get themselves a creep tumor on the right side maybe, but that's about it. I was just going to say though as well, like, you know, another mistake. Why doesn't Namshar have a ling across the map? Why isn't he trying to identify what's going on? He's so convinced, I feel, that this is just going to be bio, that he's just going in towards his melee upgrades. He's throwing down the Baneling Nest. The lair is on the way up. This looks like he just wants to play like Lingbane Hydra against bio specifically, because against mech you're going to go a bit heavier on the Hydras than the Banes, and so you don't generally get the melee upgrade. So this is really Namshar, not in the end of the world sort of, oh my god, I had no idea this was mech, but it definitely will suck just a little bit, because it definitely will affect him in terms of his potential to defend. It definitely will affect him not having the Hydra upgrade as early in the game. As you see the lair finishing, that Hydra's Den will start to come on down. And obviously, again, Namshar just hasn't really seen anything to show him that this is mech for quite some time now. Once these 4-drops start coming across the map, and where are they at? Well, there's the medevac starting to pop, and the second 4 is actually just a little bit behind. But once they come across the map, that really is going to be the biggest telltale sign, as Namshar throws down an infestation pit alongside the Hydra's Den. So looking to go straight up in towards Hive Tech here as soon as he can. The sooner Hive Tech comes up, generally the faster he can go into Ultras, right? But in this game, he's probably going to divert towards a couple of Vipers to help with the mech army. The utility those Vipers provide in the form of Abducts, in the form of Blinding Clouds, Parasitic Bombs. Every spell on the Viper is actually just amazing against mech in some way or another. It has its, you know, position in the game. He sees a couple of Hellbats over here, and I wonder if Namshar's maybe starting to realize this, as we do see these Lings counter-attacking. 8 Hydra's currently on the way up. He's going to see a lot of Hellions down the left-hand side. I love this counter-attack, though, because there is not enough units here to deal with this. And in fairness, the +1 melee will now get some use in this game. Killing off these couple of Hellbats very quickly will then allow him to wreck this mineral line. So this is going to pull a lot of units back. The 4s go into the main base, as Namshar will have to deal with this. But 16 workers killed and more counting. This one counter-attack with Zerglings has pulled all the Hellions back home. It's done an insane amount of damage. But he still needs to deal with these 4s, which are currently targeting down the Morphidin Hive, and wouldn't that be an absolute disaster, as those Banes threaten to go off on the 4s if needed. But the Hydra count is good enough, and he pushes this away. So Namshar doesn't take too much damage. A bit of lost time in mining time in the main base. You know, the Hive takes some hits, but doesn't go down. And he is left in this scenario where he's just killed a ton of workers, and it cost him a few Zerglings, but Zerglings are kind of completely fine to throw away at this stage of the game, because, well, not throw away, but if you get decent trades out of them, it's fine to not have them up in the army, because they're not going to be the best of units in the fights. And you can see right now that Namshar knows that this is mech. He starts the +1 missile attack upgrade rather than continuing into his +2 melee, which obviously is usually what you would kind of see happening. This isn't enough Hydras to get rid of these 4s, though. Once they've dropped down, the idea was to get rid of these 4s by killing the medevacs before they dropped. Obviously, that wasn't the case, though, and so he loses a lot of Hydras over here. At the same time, the Hellions are poking back in, but a Spine-Crawler and Queen defense is good enough. It's all about the 4s, which stay alive and they get out of there. Good damage dealt by souL. Definitely slows down Namshar's Hydra count. I mean, he just killed, what, like 7 Hydralisks? And it didn't cost him anything at all, just a bit of damage on the 4s. And maybe now the 4s do have to head back home, but still, 7 Hydras is 7 Hydras. Definitely doesn't come for free. Well, we also have this creep continue to push across the map, and that's one thing which Namshar has not really been hindered in too much. You know, a couple of creep tumors have gone down here and there, but for the most part, souL has struggled to kind of stop it from moving across in all directions. The Hellion presence on the left side definitely has slowed this down just a little bit in the last few moments, but on the right-hand side of the map, the creep is just unending. And so as he continues to push on up, he's going to have a lot of control in terms of where he can move his army while knowing where the Terran player is and while getting into positions very, very, very quickly. Tries to even spread a creep tumor even further north here. Obviously, at some point, it is going to get stopped. Mech Army starts to position here. Namshar didn't actually ever make the Vipers off of the Hive, so he's still just on Lingbane Hydra as this mech starts to push down the left. He's going to set up a small counter-attack here, but there's a full wall-off already, a couple of Hellbats. This number of Zerglings really shouldn't be able to do all too much. 4 Vipers now in the way, but it hasn't just taken a little bit too long to get there. The slow push of the mech player is coming along now, so Namshar, he doesn't have forever. He is on a timer. He needs these Vipers as soon as possible. Obviously, he can't do much to speed them up right now, but as soon as they pop, he needs to get them into the production. He needs to get them onto consumes, get them energy, and get ready to swoop on in with some amazing blinding clouds. One thing I will say is that souL doesn't have any real anti-air, like a couple of 4s, a couple of Cyclones, one Viking. It's not the super scary force that you usually see, which allows you to kind of shut down Vipers heavily before the blinding clouds, etc. come on down. So that's a big benefit here for Namshar. He's very likely able to get the blinding clouds which he needs. And as those couple of 4s go ahead of the rest of the army, he grabs one of them. A few tank shots here and there, though, cleaning up a couple of the Banes which are trailing forwards. This left-hand side is where the creep wasn't, and that's the one position that souL is really pressing forwards with right at the moment as Namshar sets up one hell of a surround. Here we go, from all directions, the top and the bottom. The blinding clouds start to drop. There's still a couple more available on these Hydras. Can the Hydras break on through this? I don't think they can. souL, the tanks are just a bit too powerful. The Vipers, a couple of them just didn't actually get to use their energy either. The start looked, start of this fight looked great, but it just took Namshar a bit too long to set up for it, and I really think just really expecting something other than mech here for so long, expecting bio play, really set him up in this position which he just wasn't ready at the moment. So let's go straight on into Namshar versus souL game number 2. To the bottom right hand side of the map, our blue Zerg player. This is Namshar. And on the upper left hand side from OSC Elite, taking the first game of this series, we have ourselves souL, the Red Terran player who is looking to try and just, well, continue moving on through into the second round of competition today, the round of 8. If you guys are interested in the brackets, well, I would give them to you, but for some reason I don't have them open on my second screen. If I did, that would be extremely useful. Let me see if I can just grab these for you guys and maybe bring them up onto the screen here quickly, just so you guys can see what's going on today. Alright, let's see if my mouse isn't going to work. My mouse is really buggy at the moment with my scroll wheel, so I'm just going to take a moment. Alright, we can actually bring up this right now, just show you guys how this bracket's looking. It's going to be a little bit small. Maybe I can put it in a little bit bigger so it comes up here on the bottom right a little bit better. So just to read through this, on the top half of the bracket we have Guru versus Papi Joe. We have Cripsale versus Denver. Mana has already won his first matchup 2-0 to move through to the round of 8. And we do have TPLM playing Domic C. I think as the south side of the bracket that's a little bit more stacked up here. DNS against Cass. We have Barbarossa against Clem. Braddock is taking on Geralt. And the winner of that plays the winner of Namshar and souL, which is on the south side of the bracket. So those matches are all continuing. Our bracket will continue to be updated as we go, and we'll be giving you the live results of as many of the games as we can, so you can fully enjoy your experience here in the Go4SC2 monthly finals of March. Dolphin Wolf with our third Tier 100 of the day. Today seems to be the day of Tier 100s. Thank you so much, buddy, for the Tier 100, as you always. Feels as though every time I see you in chat, it's with a cheer. Thank you so much for the support. Really do appreciate it, mate. Is the, can someone tell me, I know the Twitch Prime bits offer was on for yesterday. Is it still on, the bits offer, where you can get like 500 bits for $1? Because I'm not sure if it was a one-day thing, or if it's still happening today. If anyone knows, it'd be cool to know. I don't know if I should promote it or not. I just didn't get a chance to check myself yet, so. Anyways, thank you Devon for the Cheer 100 and everyone else who's cheered a few hundred bits so far today. Appreciate the love, as we do see once again souL fast free CC. If it worked once, why change it? Well, maybe because this time Namshar may just have a better idea as to what's going on. In fairness, Namshar in the early game did know what was going on. He saw the third command center. He knew for a fact that, souL was being greedy. He knew he was going into this fast third base. He just didn't know it was going to be a mech play as a follow-up. We'll see if he can figure that out better this time. I imagine he'll be much better with his scouting information. I mean, all it takes is one Zergling at the front to come up and see, oh my god, you built double armories in your wall. That doesn't seem like bio, right? It doesn't take a lot, but it needs to be something. Especially once that Overlord got shut down by the Viking, there wasn't really an opportunity to come back in to rescout at that sort of stage. As you are going to be seeing, this Overlord is being poked away at by a Marine here on the south side of this main base. A few Hellions popping out as we're going to be seeing the starport from souL is finished up. Will lift up and drop on towards the tech lab. So, no, it will not go towards the tech lab. He's just going to build another tech lab with the barracks. But why would you not put the starport into the tech lab? That just doesn't make sense, right? Because the tech lab, the idea is, you're not necessarily going to use it. But the idea is he can at least fake out. What is interesting is that he starts a Banshee right away as this Overlord takes a bunch of damage. I wonder if he's just afraid that this time around Namshar might try and punish him for taking such a fast third base, in which scenario, you know, in that scenario, a Banshee is an absolute golden unit, because with the Banshee, you're going to be able to get up a defense against roaches, because roaches do not shoot upwards. And so it's one of the kind of the biggest hard counters you can have to an early roach attack. And on this map, I mean, roach attacks aren't common. This could just be a nice way for him to switch things up. And he is going to switch things up by playing Bio as well. So this really does look like actually just the defensive Banshee, because even if it's not going to get a lot done, he's not invested into Cloak, but it allows him to stay stable while he will take a little while to get the rest of his production properly set up and rolling here. You can see he's going to build a siege tank now of this factory. This starport moves onto a reactor so that barracks can jump on top of it, and he's going to have nice kind of 5 marine at a time production. Siege tanks early enough in the game so he can defend easily alongside this Banshee, and this should be all good for himself, as we are going to be seeing those Hellions coming back over to the right hand side here to well, maybe try and get some damage done, but a good amount of links so far, as Namshar will throw down a Roach Run, will throw down double Evo. I mean, isn't this such a cute little play? If Namshar suspects the idea of, you know, a fast free CC again, this time he's looking to play Roaches. I mean, Neon Violet Square is the sort of map that works wonders for mech players. It's so good to play mech on, but it can also be very good for Bio, because even if you can't kill your opponent early on this map, it's a map where you can definitely defend against Ultras for a very long time while building up your own Ghost Liberator count to really get towards those kind of more powerful numbers. Cass has just dropped game number 1 against DNS, by the way, as a quick update from other round of 16 matchups going on in our bracket today. So that is 1-0 for DNS at the moment in that section of the competition. So again, we'll keep you guys updated on all of that, as we are going to be seeing the I'm just going to be seeing what happens in the near future. Alright, so looking to see what's going to happen as we see the Roach speed coming up. 1-1 missile upgrades coming through from Namshar. So he's going to play the Roach-based style this time around. It can work against Bio, kind of Roach Hydra, but it's definitely not going to be super effective. And I wonder if it's just Namshar's kind of lack of information here again, which could be hurting him. I mean, he has come in now and seen the barracks, so he will know to switch it up if he needs to. So we'll keep our eyes on this and see just how things will go, as we're going to be seeing those Hellions coming forwards and picking off a couple of creep Jimmers. Group Spine's on the way up from the Hydra's den, so getting straight in towards the Hydra's production, and we are going to be seeing just souL feeling confident enough to just throw his 4th base down on the low ground. Just doesn't even care. I mean, that 4th base is so quick, it almost rivals the speed of the 4th base of the Zerg player. Really just fast expansions here from, so it's going to finish before his 1-1 upgrades even. I mean, that's kind of crazy, the speed at which these guys are just getting up into multiple bases. And as we are going to be seeing these couple of medevacs going to come down to the south, going to start getting aggressive here as his 1-1 finishes up. I mean, even if he doesn't get overly aggressive in terms of killing units, just cleaning up some of this creep would be nice to enable him for, you know, to have more powerful attacks later. Although, that said, I would imagine one of the most important positions for souL in this game will be this sort of push in towards the 4th base location here, using these kind of neon violet squares to help block off, you know, flanks of his attack. And so cleaning up the creep here would be most important, in which case medevacs coming down to the south side are much more likely to just drop straight into the main base. So drop straight into the main, gets a couple of drones, nothing too major, so will just be forced out pretty quick. Namshar is pretty fast on his response time there, and we'll see if he can come up or miss something up moving onwards. 2-2 upgrades are starting on the engineering base, so our Terran play continuing on along with these. +1 vehicle weapons on the way up again. 2-2 continue come on through. +1 melee upgrade. Also on the way up right now, as we see Banner Speed Center vehicle hooks coming through. Hive is about to finish up at the moment. Another set of Banelings on the way through here, and we are going to be having these units coming up towards the top side of the map, and well, that's going to be coming through the center of the map, this bio play from souL. So here we go. Namshar's kind of ready to jump on this. You know what? Is there combat shields? No, he doesn't have combat shields. That's a mistake from souL that he's going to have to realize here sooner or later. If he continues to not have combat shields here for too long, that's really going to hurt him. And a few more units just gathering together to the south side. Those double drops are still just set up. There's the combat shields coming up now. And it's definitely not meant to be this late. And it maybe will I don't want to say it will deter souL from attacking. Obviously it will, but at the same time I don't think he was really planning a massive attack anyways. I don't think this, like, you know, ruins his plans or anything. I don't think this is where he's like, oh my god, the game's over. I think it's just one of those moments where it's like, okay, well, I'll back away now, and that's fine, because I'll still have combat shields for my 2-2 timing, which is generally going to hit just before ultras come on the map, and that's the next real powerful timing you have as the Zerg start to invest into chitinous plane and those expensive and long to build ultras. As they start to come out, before they're actually ready with chitinous plating, the Zerg is probably at the weakest stage it'll be in for the last 5 minutes and for the next few minutes as well, because once the ultras hit the field, it takes the Terran a little while to really set up in towards the Liberator count to start dealing with that, as group spread around the top of the map is insane here so far, and that's why souL obviously has to spend a couple of scans to start getting rid of it. Cannot really justify letting the creep be all the way up to this top side, and he does want to maybe start pushing down the right to take down this base, to push in towards this base. A lot of Ling, Bane, Hydra, and Ravager going to be setting up as we see them kind of spreading out and actually going to grab the first few units here. One of the good things about this army of the Zerg is that there isn't really much to punish medevacs though. So the medevacs aren't going to be too afraid unless they overcommit in towards the Hydras, which is really, you know, a Terran's own mistake if that is going to be the occurrence. Kind of playing on the way from Namshar. His ultras should be starting as soon as he gets some free supply for it. It wouldn't actually be bad for him to kind of skirmish with the front of this army just so he can rebuild, you know, start to build a few ultras. Double up drops do come into position. They're going to find the Ultras Cavern. That would be an absolutely huge pickoff right now. Lings and Hydras coming in to save it, but it's not going to happen. Ultra Cavern goes down, and suddenly this timing of souL gets himself another 2-3 minutes to play with now, because you have to get an Ultra Cavern to rebuild, and then the chitinous plane to start up all over again before those Ultras are really eligible to come out on the map. So Namshar not going to have Ultras for a very long time, as we are going to be seeing these Banes, Ravagers, Hydras all rushing on through. The Blind Clouds are very good though. You have to give credit where credit's due. And that's going to be maybe the saving grace of this engagement for Namshar. The Blinding Clouds absolutely fantastic to break through all of the siege tanks. souL continues to pull away towards the other right hand side, lifts up what he can, gets the medevacs out of there, which is again a good thing. If you imagine there's like mutas or something or corruptors in this army, suddenly the medevacs start dying, and you have to start replacing some of these medevacs rather than just being able to focus up on, Liberator production, which is what you're probably going to need soon to deal with Ultras, although again, he has definitely bought himself some extra time to get those Liberators up by killing that Ultras Cavern. A few medevacs to the left as we do see, well, 14 Banelings on the way up. And this plane is coming on through here, and we are going to be having +2 missile attacks on the way. It's such a kind of a mixed set of units in this kind of composition of Namshar. A lot of Hydras, a lot of Banes, and soon Ultras, so both melee and missiles are going to be important. And he already has the Carapace. In fact, he has triple Evo going, so he actually has +3 Carapace on the way up. That's maybe the most important upgrade, because the most important thing for Ultras is how tanky they're going to be going into the fights. It makes them one of the things that makes them so difficult to clean out, and that's why you need the Liberators and the Ghosts for Snipes as a way to deal with that, because it kind of, shoots through the tankiness of the armor upgrades. As we are going to be seeing 11 drones and more going down in the main base. This drop has been super effective. 18 workers killed. And Namshar has just taken one hell of a beating over here. Needs to be careful with the Vipers. Doesn't want to run those into just a few stranded Marines here. That would just be a loss to that would just be a really painful way to lose a couple of extra units that you don't need to lose at this stage after so much damage has already been dealt. You see another scan coming through, and a few of these creep tumors getting picked off at the moment. Another scan, and just a little bit more creep continue to be cleaned out. A moment or two here as the players continue to set themselves up and look to see what might just happen next. Banes, Hydras, Ultras, Ravagers, all gathering up together. Adrenal Glands is going to come on in from Namshar, finally getting all of the Hive Tech upgrades coming through. I just wonder with the delay of the initial Ultras if he isn't going to be able to do enough damage to then kind of, set himself up well for the eventual kind of Ghost coming through. Although the initial Bane stopping the Ghost from sniping, now they're able to get a couple of snipes off. I still think this is a pretty okay-ish position for Namshar. His supply doesn't dip too low. I guess actually souL lost quite a bit there. He kills a few drones though. There's a little bit of a drop still active on the bottom right-hand side of the map. It's actually kind of crazy. We've seen some Lings, Hydras, and Ultras coming through, and they will be able to clean up this set of units in the bottom right corner. So, some nice little cleanup there. Another command center finishing up on the top side. souL continuing to just push his bases through this top side position, which is so easy for him to defend because there's just choke after choke after choke that Namshar has to push through if he wants to fight. And obviously, generally, he isn't going to want to fight through choke after choke after choke here. Actually going to start bringing his army back down towards the lower side of the map, and we are going to be seeing +3 melee. We are going to be seeing +3 missiles on the way through, so he's getting into that sort of stage where he's finally in the kind of later stages of this now. We already have the 3-3 kind of finishing up now from souL, so he's already got those upgrades in play for himself. As you see, this Liberator just starting to harass. I mean, it's something nice you can do with a Liberator or two when you have a lot of them in this later game scenario. You start dropping them in a couple of mineral lines. It's surprising how much like a couple of libs can start to pick away, because it takes so much attention to deal with a couple of libs, you know, replacing spore crawlers. And if you then micro them yourself, you can really dance around for a little while, pull units out of position and all the rest of it. It's a nice cleanup on the drop. The Queen's catching it early obviously makes it a little bit simpler over defense. And this drop down here is seen because it's just sat on creep spread. Not the ideal sort of way for a drop to be played out here. souL will realize that he'll lift up and just back away without trying to find too much. A single creep team are going down. A bit of a standoff position here at the moment on the unviolet square between Namshar and souL. Neither of these guys are in that sort of scenario at the moment where they really want to push forwards and really want to kind of engage into each other. I mean, the thing is though, Namshar has to do something sooner rather than later, because souL's feeling comfortable enough to start building ravens. Nukes on the way as well. And we all know that the more kind of, you know, the more of a setup we have with kind of ravens and ghosts, the harder it generally is for Zerg to break through. I have to say, souL's supply is really sitting kind of low, but he's completely reliant on the fact that if Namshar is afraid of him, and afraid of his, you know, attacking into the defensive position, then he can get away with sitting on lower supply while he just builds these higher tech units. Ravens and Liberators, the only things in the production tab. Namshar has a lot of money as well, and that's also a big benefit, you know, just having the ability to... As this ghost is seen? No, not seen. Maybe it is seen. He doesn't have detection. But it's one of those things where Namshar does have a big bank, and so maybe you could try and pick off, you know, make a couple of trades. The only reason that souL isn't maxed out is because he is being so greedy. But obviously, it's so hard for him to know that. And as we do see, that ghost cleaned up. A bit of a stim in from this Bioforce, grabs a base. Does he get out alive, though? I don't think he does. And if he loses all of this bio, does that just trigger Namshar into maybe taking that opportunity to go for an attack, knowing that souL has just lost a whole bunch of units? Good micro backwards on this damaged Ultralisk. If you can save it, you may as well. I mean, Ultras are expensive. 300, 200 to build. It doesn't come cheap at all. So keeping one alive and a couple transfuses later, it's back up to full health. That's really called efficiency. It's going to be having another nuke coming down. This time, just going to try and get this base in the gold a little bit lower. Namshar seems really on top of these nukes, though. Seems to be able to find them pretty quickly. At least it would seem. I thought this attack sword was coming down and maybe deal with the ghost, but turns out he's actually just, well, running by to head up a little bit of a run by. So that's something the ghost will have seen if souL was paying attention. This Hydra Ultra Force coming up to the top left. We have a couple of Ravens and a Liberator here at the moment, and again, that Raven count is continuing to build on up. We're at 6 at the moment. Rebuilding at a time brings us up to 9 in the next few moments. And here you go, a couple of Ultras coming in, but the snipes coming down. It only takes 3 snipes to kind of pick off an Ultralisk here. The Hydra's on the high ground, denies some mining, but there's not really much. And again, he lost an Ultras for it already. I'm sure realizing this isn't really going his way. Yeah, I just have to point out that souL's only on 150 supply. He doesn't even have that scary an army, I feel, right now. 9 Ravens, 12 Ghosts. It's just how do you attack into this Sim City, this position where if you do start to like double planetary fortresses, you know, souL is playing for the much later stages of this, and you can really tell that that is the case at the moment. Just going to be seeing the army continue to move around. Some fly captors on the way up, as we do see a couple of nukes on the way in the production tab. Another couple of ghosts coming through as well. And we are going to be seeing the Ultras, Banes, the Hydras all coming over to the right hand side here. Some anti-armor missiles will start to clean up a little bit of an attack force to the left hand side. The Raven count now starting to look to be that kind of scary number where you can imagine just a ton of anti-armor missiles being thrown at the Zerg army time and time again here. Siege Shank going to get a couple of shots off from these units as they start to push on forwards. We're going to be seeing these Banes going to try and roll on in towards the mineral line, perhaps. Oh, and the armor missiles going to connect nicely onto those Corruptors. There isn't really much to kind of make the most of that, though. There isn't like much of a follow-up to kill the Corruptors. Planet Fortresses are going to be somehow staying alive. No way. They're like 10 health planetary. Staying up here. souL loses barely nothing in that fight, while Namshar drops 70 supply. Ultra's got shot down. I mean, so much of the Corruptors just painted red. Now he rebuilds Corruptors and Broodlords and Infestors, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to find a way to fight this. If that's any sort of an indication as to how this game will continue, I really don't know if Namshar is going to be able to find himself a fight which is going to be working out for him. Obviously, souL's not maybe going to be too aggressive himself. He's generally going to want to sit back and let Namshar attack into him and just sort of play the more kind of waiting game here. But it's definitely an interesting way to get things started off. By the way, DNS has just taken down Cass 2-0, and so he will move on through to the round of 8 of the competition here, continuing on through this Go4SC2 monthly finals. I'd really like to try and catch DNS versus Clem if that is the round of 8 matchup. But obviously right now we're stuck in quite the series here between souL and Namshar, and this is what we're going to be sticking with for a little while until these guys wrap it on up. And of course Namshar still has the potential to take game number 2 and to force us to a game 3. So we really could be here for quite some time as souL. It's crazy because even his bio units seem to be finding decent trades, but in reality he's just trying to get rid of them, you know? He just wants to lose these so he can rebuild a couple more Ghosts and Ravens, although you have to say his gas count is very low. He needs to fix this. A couple of workers not on gas here, a worker missing over here. He's going to take this base on the left-hand side now as well. That puts him up to, what, 7 bases in the game? Pretty much the same number of bases as Namshar. Namshar's like +1 down on this side, and he already took this base up here in comparison. Aggressive nuke, just sort of push back the initial spore crawlers. And we'll see Namshar pulls the spores back, but it's the nuke that lands on the creep that will just start to kind of force the Zerg play to have to reposition that, reset it up, and it's just one of those annoyances as Ravens are like, okay, let's go then. He's going to drop down a lot of anti-armor missiles. The Parasitic Bomb and Fungal Growth, though? Was the Parasitic Bomb? There wasn't. It was just a Fungal Growth, and Namshar loses so much, and how the Ghosts are just like, cool, let's party. Throws down some snipes. I don't think Namshar was expecting this to actually be an army just showing up and actually coming into fight. How often does the Terran take the initiative in a scenario like that? Well, a lot of the time they just don't. And the Vipers were there, and if the Vipers land a couple Parasitic Bombs, all of these Ravens might die, and this might be a very different scenario, but he didn't hit any of those Ravens, and that's a massive issue. The Infestors will drop down the Fungals where they can, but the Ghosts just don't seem to care. And pushing forwards right now, these nukes, they're going to cause more problems. As we're going to be seeing the nuke kills off a couple of spores, kills off a creep tumor, continue to push down the right side. I mean, when Namshar's rebuilding Zerglings, that's when you know you're probably in some trouble. He's going to come in with a lot of Zerglings here, and he actually fights against these Ghosts. They cloak, but there is... Well, okay, I mean, what does it even matter? They cloak, and they're just like, cool. I mean, I lost like 3 or 4 Ghosts, and you lost all the Zerglings you just made. Derry, look at resources lost. 42,000 to 24,000 resources lost in this game at the moment. Wow, that is absolutely insane. Insane differences here, and souL's just been finding... Look at this, he's just on the hunt again. He's like, let's go. Anti-armor missiles on a bunch of Corruptors. He just keeps on dropping them. And now these Corruptors are already in the painful kind of situation where moving into this fight, they're going to take a lot of damage. The Banes are going down as they try to run on in. The Corruptors do kind of catch the Ravens here, but now the Ghosts come through, and it's just going to be Snipe Central as they're going to get rid of all of these Corruptors. And Namshar, rebuilding 9 of them, is not going to have much to do. He's losing so many drones that I think nukes are landing as well. I don't even know what's happening to keep up with all of this. This is absolutely crazy as we see souL. I mean, do we look at the resources lost again now? 50,000 to 29, so that was an 8,000 versus 3,000 resources lost trade. This does go down. Scans from souL to see which other bases Namshar might have, as we are going to be seeing. We are going to be seeing, well, souL just in such a position. And Namshar, I mean, he's going to try and scramble together a few Corruptors, but now he doesn't even really have the army, the economy to rebuild this army. As we're going to be seeing Corruptors and Lings coming back down to the south side. Getting set up and getting ready to go. Corruptor's going to come up to the left. We're going to see the Ghosts, though, going to come in and find the fight. I mean, a few Lings, not really enough to do anything of meaning. And I think just really Namshar's going to start realizing what's kind of going on here. Sorry, just trying to set up our next game, guys, at the same time. Corruptor's coming around. And we are going to be seeing a base in the top right. A couple more Ravens on the way up. One of those scenarios where we can sort of just see this game is kind of over. So we see another few units just loading up into this medevac, flying around. Looking to see what else is happening. Another couple of Ravens building. I mean, Namshar is trying to live off of a Ling Corruptor life, but I'm really not sure what he's going to be able to get done here. Another nuke to the south side. I mean, the Corruptors try to find a medevac, but what do you even really get done? Nukes continue to drop. The Ghosts are on their way over. Namshar is just kind of running forwards, and I wonder if, as he dances around, he's just sort of realizing that this game is over. The mules drop down. 17 drones have just died to a nuke again, it seems. I'm very bad at kind of catching these today. Anti-armor missiles, and that should be this GG. souL takes game number 2 and finishes this series.